Trent Cotney and John Kenney are dedicated to helping the construction industry with legal business and safety challenges. Welcome to this week's episode of Law and Mortar.
Hey, this is Trent Cotney. I'd like to welcome everybody to another episode of Law and Mortar. As always, I've got John Kenney with me. John, how are you doing?
Hey, great. It's a bright sunny day and it's Friday, our favorite day.
Absolutely. You and I have both been road warriors here, and you've got a big stint coming up where you're on the road again for a few months. I've got a few things a little bit later in March, but it's a good opportunity to kind of catch up. We've had some big breaking news today. Supreme Court shot down President Trump's tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and it was I haven't had a chance to fully digest the decision, but there was some interesting stuff in there from a legal standpoint. Read some of the dissent. I haven't had a chance to, again, to kind of look through everything and the rationale, but it creates a lot of uncertainty for contractors out there. You know, one thing I think you and I were kind of talking about it. Trump administration's already made it clear, we've seen an initial response. I assume that there'll be some more that will come out, but tariffs will continue to exist. You know, there's a variety of different other avenues that he can potentially go down. There's various, trade acts and, other tariff mechanisms that he can use to potentially, assess tariffs. So I don't think it's going to go away. I do think that this creates a little bit more uncertainty. I think that what you will see now, I think there's really two issues, right? I think the first issue is kind of moving forward. You're going to see more well-reasoned justifications for using tariffs, whether it's Section 301 or Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, or whatever the vehicle is that they choose to use. I think part of the problem with that the Emergency Powers Act that he used is that there was a lot of lack of legal justification, and in kind of parsing through that decision, it seems like some of the Supreme Court justices kind of really focused on that. Like, nice try, but there's not enough here, right? So one thing is I think he'll shore up from a legal standpoint a little bit better, guaranteed that whatever he does is going to be legally challenged and be tied up in court for years. But what's more interesting, John, is what happens to all that money that was gone out. I think he's indicated, he's not giving it back, and I assume there's going to be some challenges there. But even assuming you could give it back, how do you even do that? I think, Justice Kavanaugh's dissent opinion in that decision was interesting. He said the same thing, like, how do you do this, right? Because tariffs are assessed and then they're passed on. Some are passed on to the end user, some are absorbed by importers. There are a variety of post-tariff trade deals that were executed. How do you unwind that? It's going to be interesting to kind of see how this unfolds over, the next few months. But curious to see kind of what your thoughts are. Again, this is just breaking news, just happened a few hours ago, so we're still digesting everything on our end. But curious to see, what you think.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's breaking. I saw the same things you did, and definitely, he did do a live press conference this afternoon. I did only caught a part of it, and basically said that he was disappointed in the ruling, which of course that's not what they wanted, and that there's still going to be tariffs. They got another act they're looking at, and automatically it's 10% that's already been put back in place on basically all construction materials. So for a contractor standpoint, you didn't gain anything, and I didn't think we would. So I think you still have to continue to operate under the exact same premise that we've been operating under with however you've been dealing with pricing and tariffs and so on. And then I think the other part of that to look at is to be prepared that it could actually get worse. Um, I think you have to look at it that way. I mean, this was not a ruling in a favor that the administration likes, and I think they could also go to other extremes. I don't really know. Nobody knows, and I'm just speculating at that. But I always find it's better from a contracting business owner and a contracting planning purposes to always look at what could be on the worst case scenario, and I think that's very possible. Now, as far as you go about giving the money back, that's never going to happen. You're right. That's going to be tied up. I think the best case scenario for the American taxpayer, which we all are, is that it goes into a pot and goes towards the debt at some point in time. but I don't know. That's way above my pay grade. How and why and the purposes of Washington and how they operate. But I think for business wise, I think you gave sage advice. You got to plan on it's going to continue.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked about this before. Contractually, you want to make sure you got your price acceleration provision in there. That doesn't change. You always have your guard up. You're always watching your six. There's not going to be any change there. And, yes, it is, breaking news, but for roofing contractors and other contractors that are out there, I think it's going to be business as usual. Um, John, we talk about a lot of different topics on Law and Mortar, and what is this, 109, episode 109?
109, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So over the years, and it's been years, we've talked about everything. One thing I think our listeners would kind of be interested in is tips and tricks for being on the road. And you and I are both on the road a lot. And it is there's an art form to it. And I get asked that all the time. Trent, how do you navigate travel and how do you handle it? One of the things, I'll just speak from my perspective and then I'll kind of let you talk, John. I Best part of my job is being able to get out there and talk to people, right? I really love the advocacy part of it. I love being able to educate. I feel like I'm doing good. And that's important, right? Because it's easy to kind of sit at a desk and get lost in the job. But if you don't get out there and see what needs to be done and kind of do something about it, it doesn't give you real world perspective. For me personally, what I've learned over the years, and it's taken time, is you focus on what's important and you eliminate what's not. And you got to conserve your energy, stay healthy, make sure to always, plenty of vitamins, all that kind of stuff. But I focus on what's truly important. I eliminate what's not, and you look for whatever advantages you can to make your life easier on the road, right? And I'm curious to kind of see what you do. You've had a more brutal schedule than I have over the last few months.
Yeah, so I mean we're in different stages, and I think a lot of people out there, and what I mean by that is you still got a child, you still got the family dynamics that you're bouncing in and out of. I'm a little bit different. Mine are all grown now. So my wife travels with me, so that makes it a lot easier. But it's still, like you say, it's tolling. So to stop at the most important part is what you just said, being out there, being able to speak live, being able to work in the educational stuff that I do. I wouldn't give that up for anything. That makes up for all the things that go along with travel. You just get such a great perspective. And one thing I've learned, and I know you have too, is if you ever think you're losing faith in human race or society, get out there and meet your fellow in the contracting world. I find that to be so refreshing. Everywhere I go, it's fantastic. And I agree with you. The health, we don't eat out of fast foods. We prepare our own stuff sometimes. If we're in a place for a long time, we do the room meals, and where we prepare. We get the, what do you call them, the suites and that, kitchenettes or whatever they are. You have to, and you got to be able to adopt to it. Now, for us, and like most people out there, we also have to travel with a lot of other work and stuff that we're doing. It'd be great, and it's a balance of life. So I think you hit that. For me, I think the hardest part is going from area to area and weather changes. I think that
Hmm.
knocks you out, and the time zones. And I think it going out through time zones is always easy for me where I'm gaining hours, right? But man, when you start coming back, it knocks you out. And sometimes when I get home after being on the road for an extended period of time, that first week is brutal. It's like I'm tired and you feel it. So all the road warriors out there, believe me, we feel what you're going through.
Yeah, I'm the same way. One other thing I've done that has just kind of helped me mentally survive, the grueling schedule is I'm very consistent with how I approach work because work doesn't stop just because I'm on the road, right? Those
Yep.
emails are coming in, clients got problems, I'm on the phone, I still got to handle stuff, I still got to work, it doesn't stop just because I'm on the road. So, I work a lot on planes, but what I try to do is I try to parse up stuff every single day. I don't bite off more than I can chew. I don't want to feel bad about not getting something, so I plan it out. I'm like, this is the minimum I got to get done today. If I do more than that, great. If I don't, then as long as I accomplish that, I can sleep well. That has really helped me out a lot, right? Just making
It's
sure that
excellent.
you're really focused, and it's really easy to get distracted with as many fires as we got to deal with. But that has been something that I think has really made a difference. And like I said, family is critically important. I try to never travel on weekends if I can avoid it. Try to make sure I'm always home. My son's a little older now. He's towards the end of high school, but that family part is also important. So don't know if there's necessarily a right way or a wrong way, but I will tell you, just like everything, after having done it a while, you figure out the tricks, right? And it's all
You
about,
do. Yep.
even if it makes your life just a little bit better, that's what you're looking for, right? You're looking to get that advantage wherever you can, just to make things a little bit easier. So, what else you got going on, John? I know you're going to be traveling here through May, and you're going to be visiting a lot of places. Are you talking about estimating, operating? What are you going to be talking about?
A little bit of both. I'm going to be in 11 or 12 different states,
Wow.
from about the second week of March, and I don't get back till just before Memorial Day weekend. So it's a crazy schedule, but estimating training and also project management training,
Nice.
groups of training and operations. So it's going to be busy, and but like what we just said, it's fun though. Being on the road has its drawbacks. It does. It's traveling. But being out there live and getting a chance, like in 11 states, I mean, to have the ability to be able to meet contractors that operate in, over a third of our country, right? By the time you figure that most of them operate in multiple states, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's that human interaction. There is more humanity in the construction industry than I think any other industry.
Yep.
Definitely, definitely legal for sure. But the feelings are real, the people are real. And it's hard to explain to somebody that's not in the industry, but you get it if you're in the industry. And
You
that's
do.
why I think you and I are similar in that regard, and that we're very passionate about being able to get out there. It makes it all worth it, right?
It
That's
does.
the
Yep.
key thing. So, John, I'm going to turn now to our favorite part of the program. I had a question that came in earlier. This one's from Shirley.
Hmm.
And Shirley wanted to know, she's been in business for 2 or 3 years. She doesn't own any large pieces of equipment or vehicles. Everything is leased. And she's curious as to when she should make a decision to actually buy something, or should she never buy anything and just continue to lease. And I know there's pros and cons in that. In past life, you were, chief operating officer for a large company, and you've done a variety of different roles. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, from my experience, personal experience, usually you're rolling fleets, right? Your trucks and all that. I found leasing to be the most best way of going, and for a couple reasons. One is that I knew exactly how long I was going to ha have it. I could usually calculate my repair bills a lot better because I know I'm not running beyond. Sometimes the disadvantage of owning, like say, just a pickup, you're going to go beyond, and then your repair bills start to mount up more than the return on the value of paying it out. You get maintenance schedules set up better. It has some wholesale, and as you work with your leasing companies, they can also set you up for when you have your replacement truck. So I think that works well there. Now, other equipment, as far as growing in the roofing end, if it's an asset to actually put your roofs down with, I found you're usually better off to own those. Even to own your own equipment because that's a long-term investment. You're not going to want to replace it every 3 to 5 to 8 years. You're going to keep it, maintain it, and continue to operate and make you money. So I think most accountants in construction that understand the construction world would probably lean that way. But for me in operational world, it's the way I leaned and it worked out very well.
Yeah, I would say the same exact thing. The general rule of thumb is if it's a depreciable asset, why would you own it unless you have to, right? So from a truck standpoint, it's a lot easier to manage and maintain a leased fleet. I do know a lot of contractors that own everything outright, and that's fine. You if you can manage it appropriately, you may save money, but there's also, pros and cons to that. On the equipment of the trade, yeah, yeah, I think ultimately you need to invest in money to own that stuff, because that's what's going to make or break you, right? And having that equipment, the stuff that you're going to use on a day-to-day basis, day-to-day basis. And I'm not talking about just tools. I'm talking about, you know, the larger equipment, regardless of
Spray
what it is
machines,
you're using,
etc.
welders,
Hmm.
whatever it is that you might be using, you want to do that. On the sheet metal side, we see this all the time. There's a lot of whether it's a brake or it's something else where you need to roll form. That stuff's expensive, right, to own it, but you gain a lot of efficiencies, you gain a lot of control, and that's important if it's a tool of the trade, I think, right? So interesting question. There have been a lot of tax changes here recently, and the reason I know that is because I was working on my taxes yesterday, and I got a lot more to do on them. But I encourage everybody to kind of talk with your accountant about what the One Big Beautiful Bill brought as far as changes on ownership and potential deductions and things like that that you might be able to take. There's some immediate depreciation that you might be able to get for certain capital investments. So take a look at that. But again, yeah, it's not a one size fits all, but I think your advice is exactly on point. So. Well, John, with that, I think we're at the end of another episode of Law and Mortar. I'd like to thank all of our loyal listeners. We appreciate you greatly. Please feel free to reach out and ask us any questions that you got. You can reach me at trent.cotney@arlaw.com or anywhere social at Trent Cotney. John, how can they get you?
They can get me at email as well at jkenny@cotneyconsulting.com or on social media at jkenny.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care now.